I've ever been involved in terms of rain and installs and delays and all that stuff. And my father's been in the business for 40 years, and this was probably one of his worst summers that he's ever had. I mean, we've never experienced rain like this. Like, we've had rainy springs, or we've had good springs and rainy summer. I mean, from the 3 to 4 nor'easters that we had in March, and then the rain all the way through the entire summer. I was watching, I think the Weather Channel or some newscast. They said just in the summer, I think 9 out of the 10 weekends it rained, and then not on top of all the weekday rain that we had all summer long. Hopefully, we won't have too bad of a winter, but they're saying that we're gonna have a pretty nasty winter too. But you know, weathermen, nobody can ever really tell what's gonna happen. So, hello, how are you? Are you guys here for the seminar today? Okay, gotcha. So, we have a combination of traditional above ground pools and fab coat pools, which are semi-in-ground pools here. So, some of the things will pertain to you, others will not pertain to you. In this packet is just a very basic, instructional guide on how to properly close your pool. Some of the stuff I say for the above ground is not going to apply to you because the fab coat is built more like an in-ground pool. They're individual panels. So a lot of the winter damage stuff is not stuff that you necessarily have to worry about as much as the traditional above ground pools. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the first thing you need to do, and one thing I try to tell all my customers all the time. The one mistake that you can make is by not closing your pool properly, is not getting your chemistry right. My customers that spend a ton of money here in the spring are people that do not close their pool properly. If you close your pool properly and treat it and chemically treat it the right way, you will open up to a crystal clear pool typically. So what that means is before you close the pool, you should bring your water in here to be tested and make sure that your alkalinity, your pH, and your chlorine level is where it needs to be. Even if you have a salt pool, I'm not sure if any of you do, you still need to show a high chlorine level when you close the pool. So we balance out all your pH and alkalinity, and then what we tell you to do is we tell you to shock your pool. So typically, depending on the size of the pool, we'll put anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds of shock, and you want to establish a very high chlorine level in the pool. So you bring your water in here to get tested. We're going to vacuum and skim out all the leaves and the debris for the pool. The better you close it, the better you're going to open it up. Obviously, if a leaf gets in there, it is what it is. But you want it to be crystal clear and be debris free when you close the pool. Water tested. Get it cleaned out. Once everything's cleaned out, then the first thing you're going to do is add that bottle of shock, whether it be 2 pounds or 4 pounds. Now, you guys all received shock in your kit. If you bought a package with us, you might have used it at this point. So that's the only thing you're probably going to have to come in and get while you're here is make sure you get shock before you leave today. So right after you put the shock in, you're going to let the water circulate typically from anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. That's just so it can establish and kill anything off that's in there.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
How do you know how many gallons you have?
We can tell you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll let you know. What size is your pool?
24?
So 24, 54, or 52?
52.
All right, so you're about 14 to 15,000 gallons
Okay.
roughly in there.
Okay.
And again, so for a 24-round pool, we would give you a 4-pound shock, which is for 40,000 gallons, because you want 20,000 to treat and the other 20 to sort of last throughout the winter.
Okay.
So after you shock the pool and run it, then you have this winter kit right here, which I'm going to go grab right now. This is our Orange County Pool Winter Kit. This is a kit we've been using, my father, for probably over 30 years. Hasn't changed. We don't change it because it works. So basically within this kit, you have your sequestering agent, which prevents the mineral staining. You have your non-chlorine shock, which helps the shock that you put in last all winter long. And you have your winter algicide. The size of your bucket is determined by the size of your pool. We have a medium-sized bucket and a large-sized bucket. So that's determined based on the gallonage of the pool. This big bucket treats up to 24,000 gallons. So basically, after you shock the pool, let it run for 4 to 6 hours, and you have 3 steps listed right on here. Literally, follow the steps exactly as directed. It'll work out perfectly. So step 1 is going to be to add half of the winterizing power, stirring the particles in the pail. You're going to run your filter after you pour it in. You're going to run your filter for about an hour. Then you move on to step 2. So once you follow this step by step, you're ready to roll with your winter chemicals. While you guys are doing this, if you have any questions, you can always call the store, talk to Carol, Ashley, Kerry, or myself. And also, before we go any further, we also do have, if you don't want to take part in the closing, we do offer that service as well too. And the girls can give you all that information. Typically, for the first year, depending on my schedule, I typically go out and will do all my first year people that want me to go out and do the closing. If you want to watch, after the first year, it typically gets tossed over to my service department to do it. So in some cases, you might get me coming out there for your first round. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So after you enter your kit, you can turn to the next page. So most of you, when your pool was installed, you've had an Aquador plate installed. If not, there's going to be a steel plate that works as well. So what happens is this is just a Tupperware piece. One of the most important things you're going to do on your pool, not for you and not for you. What this does is this prevents water from going into the skimmer. Now, you have to drop your water level below your skimmer and below your light. Who has lights here? Did everybody have lights here? Yeah. If you have a light, the water level should be dropped below the light. If you only have a return, you could just drop it below the skimmer box. Now the reason we do that is that you do not want water getting into the skimmer throughout the winter, because we've seen in many cases where it freezes and expands and then pops that wall right in half. Now for Brian and you, is that you guys will use a, I have one right here, I'm pointing. You use a gizmo. This prevents freezing and expanding. And this is what we use in in-ground pools. So you're going to use the same thing. This just screws down in there, and you don't need a plate on your door. You also have paneled wall pools, so you're not subject to the same things that could happen within an above ground pool, because on a regular above ground pool, you guys have a rolled metal wall, one piece. So if that wall gets damaged, you got to put up a new pool, or a whole new wall and a whole new liner. So that's why we take more precautions with a traditional above ground pool versus an on ground pool. So drop that water below that light, pop that plate on. Also, if you haven't received them yet, we have rubber plugs for the light. So that light, that blue jacuzzi light, basically what happens, there's a lock nut on the back of it. You have to unscrew that lock nut, and then you have to detach the light from the power source, and then pull the light back through the pool all the way up, so then you can put the number 10 expandable plug in there too. And again, the reason why you put the plug in, even though you drop the water below, water will raise potentially during the winter, and if water gets into that fitting, freezes, expands, it could break it or damage the wall also.
Where do we get the plug?
Pardon?
Where do we get the plug?
We have the plug back there if it wasn't in your bag already.
Okay.
Hey guys, were the rubber plugs all
They
in
were
there?
all in the shopping bag.
Okay, so you have them all already in there. Now, for people that don't have a light or have an additional return like you do, you're going to use the 1022C plug. So in that 1022C plug, there's you take the eyeball out. Now the eyeball is 3 parts. Most people will sort of take the first 2 parts out and then try to stick this in and be like, oh, it doesn't fit. There's a 3rd part in there that you have to take out. Most of the times you can just unscrew it. If you cannot get it out, we have this thing called the seat removal tool, which it's you stick it in there and unscrew it out, and that 3rd piece will come out. So if this is not fitting in your return, then that means that you have the 3rd piece stuck in there.
Does that come with the package?
The seat removal tool does not come with the package. All right. So once you remove that, good to go. All right. So after you disconnect, now everybody has the sand with the glass here, I would imagine. So there's really not much you have to do. You're going to disconnect the filter and all the hoses. Take all the hoses, put them in. Now you also have you have a sight glass, that plastic piece up top, your pressure gauge up top, and then you have a drain plug on the bottom. Remove all of those things from the filter and leave them off. The drain plug being the most important thing, because what's going to happen is there's water sitting in that plastic tub. If you leave water sitting in there over the winter, it will freeze and it will break. So you have to unscrew that, take all that stuff out. The sand filter itself stays outside. There's a setting on the valve that says winter. Just put it onto the winter, and then you're good to go. The pump and the hoses you can take right inside. So, but that biggest thing is making sure you take off that drain cap on the bottom of there to let all the water out of the sand filter. After that's done, the next thing you're going to do is take your winter pillow. One of the biggest misconceptions of the pillow is that it's meant to prop up your cover. That is not the case. The purpose of the pillow is it acts as an ice compensator. So you're only supposed to fill it up less than halfway full. The reason being, again, so as the ice forms, you're basically going to have a large iceberg floating in your pool on the winter. So what it's supposed to put the pressure on the pillow versus the walls of the pool. So only fill it up less than halfway. When you see the people that have their pools tented up and with the pillow blowing up, that's not the proper way. Now there is a benefit to tenting a pool, that all the water that rolls off, goes to one side and you can sort of clean it off easier. I don't suggest that. I think the best thing to do is to put your pillow in the way it's supposed to be in. It does not have to be in at the center. It can float freely because you want it to go wherever the ice is going. So less than halfway full, you should be able to clap your hands in the middle. If you do that, that's right. So throw that in the pool. After you throw it into the pool, you can start, like I said, you can put it in the center, but once you put the cover on, there's really doesn't matter where it's going to go. If you prefer, some people prefer it in the center, you have two options. You can tie 2 pieces of string to it and do it that way and hold it there, and then once the cover's on, cut the string so it stays basically in the center. Or we have a thing called the pool pillow pal, which is like it velcros to the top and holds the pool cover in place. I like when it floats a little bit more freely, but if you want to put it in the center while you're covering it up, that's fine also. It makes covering the pool a little
Only
bit
one pillow
easier.
we can use?
One pillow. Yep. Yep, so depending on the size of the pool.
I was using 2, 3 on my
Yeah.
older one.
Nope, not necessary. Again, the only purpose of that is for an ice compensator.
When it's rectangular on oval, just one,
One-
what size?
4
Like
by 8.
4 by 8.
4 by 8 for your size.
One 4 by 8, okay.
Does that come with it?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. With your packages, if you got our elite package, it comes with
Okay.
Okay.
everything that
Thank
you need, less the seat removal tool and some other optional small stuff. So now, when you put the cover on, you have different attachment methods. If you have a pool with no deck, the easiest thing to do is to throw the cover on, and you have a wire and a winch. You string the winch in, tighten it up, you're ready to roll. You also receive cover clips. I like to use a combination of the two. Do the wire, the winch, don't do it super tight, and then put some cover clips around the pool also. Or you can, I have some customers that use the cover clips exclusively. You'll figure out what works best for you. I like a combination of the wire, the winch, and the cover clips. Now, if you have a deck, it's a different story depending on how the deck was built. So if the deck sits below the lip of the pool, no problem. You can use the wire, the winch, and the clips. If the deck sits flush to the pool, you're going to have to use water bags probably, unless you left yourself enough of a space to tuck the deck, to tuck the cover underneath. So if you have a deck that's flush, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get these water bags, which will act like weights, the cover. So the cover would lay flat on the deck. You fill up these water bags less than halfway, about halfway full, and because they freeze and expand also, and they will act as weights around. How many of